Hi, my name's Paul Grogan and welcome to the Gaming Rules official How to Play video for Trapwords, published by Czech Games Edition, who helped sponsor this video. Trapwords is a game for two teams who must guess secret words to move through the rooms of a dungeon to reach the monster. One member of the team is the clue giver and they have to try and describe a secret word for their teammates to guess, but the other team has set a number of trap words which they keep secret, and if the clue giver says any of the trap words, their turn is over. The team that defeats the monster wins the game. Players split into two teams and sit on opposite sides of the table. Each team must contain at least two players, but may have more, and the teams don't need to be even. Lay out the 5 room tiles in ascending numeric order. For your first game, it's recommended to use rooms 3 to 7, but you can customise the setup however you want. Place the team figures on the starting room. There are 2 decks of monster cards. The ones with the asterisks are tougher monsters. Remove these for your first game. Shuffle the monster cards, choose one at random and place it face up next to the final room. And place the appropriate monster figure in the last room. Shuffle the curse cards and choose 2 of them at random. Place one face down next to the room just before the monster and the other in the room just ahead of the players. Curses add an interesting twist to the game, but you can choose to play without them if you want to, or you could even play with more curses. Each team chooses one player on their team to be the initial clue giver. Those players receive the torches matching their team's colour. Each team takes a Trapwords sheet and a pencil. The sheet should be folded so that you can write on it without the other team seeing what you're writing. Then decide if you want to play with a fantasy/medieval set of words or a non-fantasy medieval set of words. If you choose to play with the fantasy set of words, give each team one of the brown books. And if you choose to play with the non-fantasy set of words, give each team one of the grey books. Place the deck of word cards on the table. You can shuffle it if you like, just try not to look at any of the words as it will spoil the surprise. The deck of word cards contain both fantasy and non-fantasy words. Don't worry about that, the books are magical and they will choose the right type of word for you. So that's setup complete, let's get on with how you play. A game of Trapwords is played in a series of rounds and each round is divided into 2 parts. In the first part of each round, both teams draw a card from the deck and place it into their book. The other team might have seen the words on the face-up side, so I recommend placing the card into your book so that that side is completely covered by the book. Your book has magically chosen one of the 8 words. That word is the secret word that the other team will have to guess in the second part of the round. You and your team should look at the secret word, but make sure that nobody on the other team sees it. You must then set a certain number of traps by writing down trap words on the sheet of paper, again making sure that the other team don't see what you're writing. When setting traps, try to think of words that the other team's clue giver might say when they are trying to describe the secret word. There's specific rules about the type of trap words that you can write, which are all fully explained in the rulebook. But basically, you're supposed to write down trap words which are related to the specific secret word, and not generic words such as it or that or something. Everyone on your team should contribute to helping write the trap words. Pass the paper around and give everyone a chance to put forward their own ideas. The number of trap words you write is equal to the number on the room where the other team's figure is. At the start of the game, if you're playing with the standard setup, this is 3 words. But the further you progress through the dungeon, the more trap words that the other team will write for you. Once both teams have finished setting their traps, it's time to proceed to part 2 of the round. In the second part of the round, teams take it in turns. If one team is behind, that team will go first. And if both teams are in the same room, you look at the back of the 2 books. The book with the glowing symbol is the one that's passed first, and the team receiving that book will go first. When it's your team's turn, the clue giver on your team, and let's say this is you, is passed the book by the other team. Now, don't look at it yet, wait for the other team to give you the signal to start. And when they do, pick up the book and look at the secret word, making sure that nobody else on your team sees it. The other team will give you a few seconds to read the word and will then start the timer. You must now give clues to the rest of your team so that they can try to guess what the secret word is before time runs out. There's a number of specific rules about the type of clues that you can and cannot say. These are listed in the rulebook. For example, you cannot say the actual word itself, that would be silly. But you also cannot give examples of the word. So if the secret word were dog, you could not say poodle, basset hound, Yorkshire terrier. And your clues must be about the meaning of the word, not the way that it sounds or is written. While you're giving clues, your team should be shouting out their guesses. Anyone on your team can guess. They don't have to take it in turns. However, they should be careful with the guesses, as teams are only allowed a maximum of 5 guesses. Someone on the other team should be counting the guesses. The guessers are not allowed to ask the clue giver questions, and they cannot discuss between themselves before shouting out their guess. If your team guessed the secret word correctly, your figure advances to the next room. If your team do not guess the secret word within the time limit or use up all their 5 guesses, they fail and the figure does not advance. But what about those trap words? Well, whilst you are giving clues, the other team will be looking at their list of trap words that they made. If the clue giver says any of the trap words, that team's turn is immediately over. There are full details in the rulebook of what type of clue will trigger a trap. For example, if baseball is a trap word, it will be triggered by either base or ball. So as the clue giver, you need to be very careful about the clues you give. For example, if the secret word is butter, you might think of giving the clue it's made from milk. But then you have to think, well, what if the other team wrote down milk? So instead, you might have to be a bit more descriptive and say, it's made from that white liquid that comes out of a cow. It's also very important to note that the trap words only apply to words that the clue giver says. If any of the players guessing say a trap word, this does not trigger the trap. So, to recap, if your team guesses the secret word, you succeed and your figure advances. But if you give an illegal clue, or you say a trap word, or your team uses up all of their guesses, or time runs out, you fail and your figure stays where it is. After the first team's turn, regardless of the outcome, the other team gets a turn following the same rules. The book is passed, the timer starts, and clues are given. And after both teams have taken a turn, the round is over. If neither team advances, the monster moves one room closer to the player figures. And if a monster moves into a room with a curse, move that curse one space closer to the players. And if the curse moves into a room with another curse, that one is pushed one space closer too. Then each clue giver passes the torch to another player in their team. Ideally, everyone on the team should have a chance at giving clues, but this isn't necessary. Some people don't like giving clues, but like guessing, so they should just move the torch onto the next player. As the teams advance further into the dungeon, some extra rules apply. First, remember that the numbers in the room indicate how many trap words the other team sets. So in this example, the red team is still in the first room, so the blue team can only set 3 traps. Whereas the blue team is in the third room with the number 5, so the red team gets to set 5 traps. And if you're playing with the curses, then at some point during the game, one or both teams will eventually end up in a room with a curse card. When this happens, flip the curse card over to reveal it. Curse cards spice the game up by providing an additional challenge. They affect the team or teams which are in that room for this round only, and at the end of a round in which a curse is first applied, it's then removed from the game. To win the game, a team must battle the monster and defeat it. To battle the monster, you need to be in the same room as it. This can happen in one of 2 ways. Either you advance into the monster's room, or the monster enters your room. Either way, if you start the round in the same room as the monster, you have a chance to win the game. And if both teams start the round with the monster, then both teams can win. The monster has a special rule which applies to any team who is battling the monster. If both teams are fighting the monster, the one with the glowing book goes first as usual, but both teams still take a turn, and if both teams succeed, the game ends in a tie with both teams winning. Unless, as an alternative, you can use the tie-break rule. If both teams win, you can use the rule that the team that defeats the monster in less time wins. To do this, when the first team defeats the monster, lay the timer on its side. The sand that was in the bottom part of the timer is the time that the team used, and when the second team take their turn, turn the timer so that this is now on top. The second team has this much time to guess their word, and if they fail, the first team wins. And if both teams are fighting the monster and neither succeeds, then you just play another round. Although there is an 8-round limit, which is why there are 8 sections on the trap word sheet. And if neither team defeats the monster by the end of the 8th round, the monster wins and both teams lose. For added variability when playing trap words, you can change the rooms, making the game easier or harder. And remember, you can play without the curses, or you can go crazy and have curses everywhere. I hope you found this video useful in learning how to play trap words. For more of my videos, please consider subscribing to my channel. And for more great games from CGE, visit czechgames.com. Until next time, take care and thanks for watching. Gaming Rules is proudly sponsored by Game Toppers, upgrading your gaming experience. Visit GameToppersLLC.com.